He's smiling in court, calm and confident, carrying himself like someone who expects to walk out the front door. Nothing about him suggests panic. Nothing suggests fear. Then the judge says 2 words, and everything shifts. What happens next doesn't look planned. It looks impulsive. In seconds, he's moving. Shackles loosened, deputies caught off guard, an orange jumpsuit slipping away as he bolts through the courtroom and bursts out of the courthouse, straight into the Florida streets. 6 days later, they bring him back to the very same room he ran from. When the judge asks why he escaped, he gives an answer that sounds almost reasonable on the surface. He says he wasn't running from justice. He was running to find evidence that would prove he was innocent. No one in that courtroom believes him, and that's the part that matters. To understand why he ran, why he risked everything in a single moment, you have to understand what he was facing, and what he believed was about to happen to him. If you're into true crime stories like this, hit subscribe now and stay with me, because what happened that day changes everything forever.
So, sir, you've been charged with an escape. You're also being held on several felony warrants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 felony warrants. While you're in the custody of the Broward County Sheriff's Department, you're going to be isolated from the general population. I'm going to order that you be isolated and that your communications be limited only to communication with your attorney.
That morning, September 8th, 2014, started like any other in a gated community in Davie, Florida. A 59-year-old woman lived there with her husband and their 20-year-old son in a home worth over $1 million. Her husband left for work around midday, and while sitting at his desk, he pulled up the home security feed on his computer just to check in, something he did routinely. But this time, he saw something that made his stomach drop. A figure moving through the house. Someone who shouldn't be there. And then the cameras went dark. He immediately called his son, told him to get home now, and the son drove fast, heart racing, not knowing what he'd find when he opened the door. When he walked inside, the house felt wrong. Drawers pulled open, items missing. And then he heard water running from the master bathroom. He pushed the door open and froze. His mother was unresponsive, and near the front door, he noticed something that immediately sent him into panic. He dialed 911, voice breaking, words tumbling out in a rush, saying she wasn't breathing, saying her hands were tied, saying he tried to help but couldn't. And at one point, he said something strange, something that didn't make sense. He said she'd done this to herself before correcting mid-sentence, realizing this was something else entirely.
What is your emergency?
My mom killed me.
Okay.
I died in the bathtub.
Okay, what is the address of the emergency?
10327 Southwest 22nd Place, Davie.
Okay. Breathing?
No, she's not. I tried.
Breathing?
She's not.
Okay.
Oh my God.
When did you find her yesterday?
I'm scared right now.
Okay.
And everything, there's a lot. Oh my God. Oh my God. My whole house has been rummaged through.
What did you find?
I found a broken door.
And you found a broken door where?
On the guest room.
Justin?
Police arrived within minutes, securing the scene. And as they walked through the ransacked home, they had one immediate question. If the knife belonged to the son, and he knew where the cameras were, and his story kept shifting under pressure, then who exactly were they looking at? Detectives brought both the father and the son into separate interrogation rooms, and what started as routine questioning quickly turned into something far more intense. The father sat across from investigators for hours, answering questions about the security system, about who had access to the house, about who knew exactly where those cameras were positioned. And his answer, the son. Meanwhile, in another room, the son's story started falling apart. He told detectives that when his father called and said someone was inside, his first instinct was to go home and check it out, which makes sense, except for what he did next. He said he went to his bedroom first, took off his shoes, grabbed a pocket knife from his car for protection, and then went looking for his mother. Detectives leaned in. Which knife? Where is it now? He said it was still in his car, that he'd put it back before police arrived, and the detectives exchanged a look because that didn't add up. When did you have time to go back to your car? He hesitated, stumbled over his words. And then he admitted something that made the entire room go cold. He made it up. The whole story about the knife, about going to the car, about protecting himself, all of it was a lie. And when they asked him why he lied, he said he was just trying to explain why he went into the house the way he did. But that wasn't the only problem. The knife found at the scene. It belonged to him. The cameras that were unplugged, he knew exactly where they were. And the 911 call where he initially said his mother had done this to herself? That raised even more questions. For 13 hours, they kept him in that room, pushing, questioning, watching his story shift and crack under pressure. And here's the thing. If you're trying to figure out whether the son actually did this, or if something else is going on, then you already know this case is deeper than it looks. So, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now to see how this plays out, and I don't want you missing what happens next. Because just when detectives thought they had their answer, forensic evidence came back, and it changed everything.
I called my son, cell phone number, and I asked him, where is he? Are you home? He said, no. I said, okay, did you or have you tried to joke with me by masking, put the mask, cover your face, and try to, cover the, turn off the camera? He said, no. He said, did you, so you didn't do it today, but did you do it in the past? Then I can see the recording there. Is that what I've seen? He said, no, I never done that before.
Well, he called me and said, did you mess with the cameras? Did you go with the mask up to the camera and take it down? And I said, no, I'm not even home yet. And that's when I started just getting a bad feeling.
Whoever did this, know where the security camera is? Because both of them being unplugged indicate that they know this camera.
Well, let me ask you, who knows where these security cameras
My son.
Okay. There's somebody inside your house that he sees on a camera.
Yeah.
And your first thought is to go home and
Yes.
take off your... Shut up for a minute. Your first thought is to take off your shoes and go in your bedroom first?
Yeah. What's wrong with that? I was gonna check it out. I had a knife in my hand.
What knife did you have in your hand?
What? I had a pocket knife.
Which one?
The one from my car.
What does it look like?
It was just in my pocket, dude.
Where is it now?
It's in my car still. I put it back in my car.
What does it look like?
It's black.
So you put that back in your car before the cops got there?
No.
You said you had a knife in your hand.
Fuck, you guys are putting shit in my head.
You're saying it, man. Did you have an opportunity to go to your car?
When I was in my car, when I dropped it, what?
When did you have an opportunity to go to your car?
When I got out of the car?
When did you ask you again? You're a smart guy. I'm not trying to insult you.
That whole thing with the knife, I made up. Because when you told me, like, why would you go in the house? Because I was defending myself.
Made it up.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Sorry.
Don't do that again. I just told you you're not making sense and your stories are all over the place. And you're just gonna sit down and tell me you made that up about going back in your car?
Yeah. That's the only thing I lied about. Sorry.
If anything, I'm most confrontational.
Did you have anything to do with this?
Me? No. Absolutely not. I was in my office.
The DNA results took days to process. And when they finally came back, detectives opened the file expecting confirmation of what they already suspected. But the DNA found at the scene didn't belong to the son. It didn't belong to the father either. It belonged to someone else entirely, Someone who had no connection to the family, no reason to be in that house, no relationship with the victim whatsoever. His name was Dayonte Resiles, 20 years old, living about 25 miles away from the crime scene. And when investigators pulled his file, a pattern emerged. He had a criminal history, multiple arrests, all for the same thing: breaking into wealthy homes, not violent crimes, not assaults, just burglaries, targeting upscale neighborhoods, taking what he could and disappearing before anyone noticed. His method was consistent. He'd scope out gated communities, find homes with minimal security or families that were away, force entry through back doors or windows, and ransack the place looking for cash, jewelry, anything valuable. Police knew his routine because they'd arrested him before, but this was different. This wasn't just a burglary gone wrong. This was a break-in that ended with a woman found restrained in her own bathroom, and the question investigators now had to answer was simple but terrifying. If Dayonte Resiles was there to steal, what happened that made this turn into something so much worse? And more importantly, did he plan this? Or did something go catastrophically wrong when the victim came home and interrupted him? 9 days after the crime, police tracked Resiles down and arrested him, charging him with first-degree murder based on the DNA match that placed him inside that home. He was held without bond, waiting months for his day in court. And when that day finally came, something about his behavior stood out to everyone in the room. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't afraid. He sat there with his family in the gallery behind him, smiling, joking with his attorneys, acting like he'd been through this routine a dozen times before and knew exactly how it would end. Court officers later described him as relaxed, almost playful, like someone who genuinely believed he was about to walk out of that courtroom a free man. Maybe it was confidence. Maybe it was denial. Or maybe he knew something the prosecution didn't. Just as the hearing was about to begin, Dayonte Resiles made a decision. Investigators later revealed he had help from another inmate. He'd been planning this for weeks with a hidden key and pre-ripped seams, but within seconds those restraints were off, and he was moving. He bolted past the bailiff, past court deputies who were too stunned to react in time, and ran down the courthouse hallway at full speed. As he went, the jumpsuit peeled off when a bailiff grabbed it, leaving it on the ground so he'd be harder to identify in his underlying clothes. By the time officers realized what was happening, he had already pushed through the exit doors and disappeared into the streets. Florida law enforcement launched one of the largest searches the state had seen in years. Helicopters circled overhead. Police set up perimeters around the courthouse, blocking roads, checking vehicles, and coordinating with neighboring counties to lock down the area. But on the 6th day, they finally got the break they needed. Police tracked him to a motel in West Palm Beach, about an hour away from where he escaped. And when they surrounded the building, there was no way out. And when officers moved in, Resiles was taken into custody without resistance. But the story didn't end there. Within hours, police arrested 7 other people, all charged with helping him escape, with harboring a fugitive, with obstruction of justice, with risking their own freedom to keep him hidden. One of them was his girlfriend, who was pregnant at the time, and when she appeared in court, her family sat in the gallery crying, telling her they loved her as she faced serious charges for what she'd done. Investigators discovered she'd been facilitating 3-way calls from the jail before the escape. The room went still as the clerk read the verdict, slow and deliberate. Guilty, first-degree murder. There was no reaction, no visible shift. Dayonte stood motionless as the words settled, his future decided by 12 people he could no longer influence. The judge thanked the jurors and moved the court forward into a phase that carried its own gravity. The most severe punishment was no longer being sought. The victim's family had chosen finality over prolonging the process. They wanted an end that didn't demand more years of hearings or more moments relived. The sentence was life in prison. Appeals have been filed, arguments refined. Paperwork moves through the system, slowly, quietly, long after the courtroom emptied. On record, his position hasn't changed, but one decision did change everything. The moment he ran, the moment he burst out of that courtroom, the case stopped being just about evidence and testimony. To a jury, to the public, to the people tasked with judging him, the escape became a statement of its own, not proof of guilt, but a signal that fear had taken over. And that's the hard lesson sitting at the center of this story. Desperation doesn't automatically mean someone is guilty. Innocent people panic too. They make bad choices under pressure. But running doesn't clear your name. It doesn't buy time. It convinces the world you're afraid of what's coming next. In the end, the escape didn't save him. It followed him into court, into deliberations, and into a sentence that left no room for return. There's another courtroom story waiting on your screen right now. You don't want to miss it. Click that video, and I'll see you there.
Before I talk to you, I gotta read these rights. You don't want to talk to me?
I don't know what's going on, so.
Okay, no problem. You're gonna be charged with first-degree murder. First-degree murder, okay?
What am I being charged with first-degree murder for?
Can't talk to you, so.
What?